Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. Wow. Pura vida, mi gente. Your life. So, we're going to do a little recap. We're going to get it like it's the first time. The reason we're doing this, and well, somebody just mentioned it on the chat. Not only is Los Angeles and parts of California on fire and it's on the news, but we're going to be talking about the pioneers, so-called black pioneers of the West, California, the Southwest. I'm going to show you how many there was and how really it was almost all melanated folks that were the founders, historical founders of a lot of the West, right? That would include California. And we're gonna try to get real deep to get to know all of them, in upcoming videos. So, what they're calling the so-called Negro trailblazers. But I wanted to remind everybody before we started talking about, because a lot of these books are saying, oh, the first blacks, so-called blacks, the first blacks that were coming, those are other so-called blacks. That doesn't mean there wasn't so-called black or Negro people, indigenous people, so-called black Indians in California already, you know, what a lot of people would classify as so-called Negro or so-called black. So just wanted to go over that information again, especially for all my new subscribers. And because of what's going on over there right now, just to remember the land, the people who were there. And, this may not be all the historical descriptions or the most old or the oldest or anything like that, but just something for you to think about. As you guys see, it's a general consensus. And we already know when it goes to the definition of American in the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, you get the copper-colored tribes of America found here by the Europeans. That's what it applied to. Okay, many shades of that. America's the true old world, many nations, many phenotypes, many looks, many shades of copper, to the darkest copper, to the lightest copper, It's just not one single look. All right. But we're gonna go over the California examples. Here's an image, a lot of people know. That is a Jokud tribal woman from the 1900s in Tulare County, California, and historical drawings of California Indians. So let me just share something else here. Because we're live. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks to everybody that's in the live chat. So California Indians, San Francisco Bay, as you guys can see, these are historical depictions. All right. Custom and traditions of the Ohlone tribe, Ohlone Indians. Ohlone. All right. And then this one, we got the King of California places his crown on feathers on Francis Drake. Many versions of that. This is probably the one from John Ogilvy. Right. Here's another example. Right, and it's still showing you so-called black Indian doing it. When you go into these drawings on these old books. All right. King of California places his crown of feathers on Admiral Drake's head. All right, so we're just looking at some images here, but we're gonna get to some sources. All right. Sources. Yeah. Welcome. Okay. Early history, the planning history of Oakland. Yeah. Wow. Wow, pura vida, mi gente. Peace to the chat. I think we got a good crowd now. So we're gonna go ahead back to the video. All right. And we're gonna get into some sources, right? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. So we're in the archives of Aboriginal knowledge now. Information respecting the history, condition, and prospects of the Indian tribes of the United States, collected and prepared under the Bureau of Indian Affairs by Henry R. Schoolcraft. Basically, this is called the Schoolcraft Archives. This is volume 3 of this collection. He was a member of the Royal Geographic Society, London Royal Antiquarian Society, Copenhagen Ethnology Society, Paris. All right, we're gonna see what he had to say, what these people had to say about certain tribes of here in California. We go to page 102, and it's talking about the people in Bodegas Bay. It says here, another tribe of the Tumalenias use a different one. In appearance, these Indians differ entirely from Chinooks and other coast tribes of Oregon, being taller and darker. They have quite heavy mustaches and beards on the chin, but not much on the cheeks, and they almost all suffer it to grow. Several were noticed with gray heads and beards. They are ugly and brutish race, many with Negro profiles, and some of the old men resembling Chinese figures of their deities. Listen to this, Negro profiles that resemble Chinese deities. We're in this book now. It's called Sights in the Gold Region and Scenes by the Way by Theodore T. Johnson. This is from 1849. So someone's talking about how he's in an encampment. These encampments, or so-called missions, or so-called slave mines, really, they had the Indians digging the gold. You're gonna read. It says here, it's in between two rolling hills called the Green Springs, as the little mud hole, so denominated, was in the midst of a patch of greener or more abundant grass than usual. Green Springs looks like it might be around Sacramento, Green Springs Ranch today. So he says, while here, some 20 warriors came in from a neighboring rancheria, following each other in regular Indian file across the hillside. These were a part of one of the numerous small tribes of California Indians called diggers. This name they have received as characteristic of their habits, either of digging large holes in the ground for sanitary purposes called sweat houses, or from their custom of digging and eating various kinds of roots. They also eat a species of grass and wild clover when prompted by hunger. Their principal food, however, consists of acorns and preparations from them. These are very abundant, and we found them quite sweet and palatable. This race of Indians is probably inferior to all others on the continent. Many of them are diminutive in stature, but they do not lack muscular strength. And we saw some who were tall and well formed, all right? These were all partially clad in every kind of toggery obtained at the trading post, and armed with short bows, lined very skillfully with rawhide, hard as bone, and capable of propelling their arrows with great force and precision. The Indians of the mountains are not so well clothed, and we saw many entirely naked. Now listen to this. Pay attention, right? What I'm about to drop on you. Their complexion is a dark mahogany, all right? Their complexion is a dark mahogany, or often nearly black. Their faces round or square, with features approximating nearer to the African than the Indian. All right, you listening? How clear can that be? He's saying these are so-called Negroes. That's what he calls an African. With features approximating nearer to the African than the Indian. Dark mahogany complexion, with features approximating nearer to the African than the Indian, all right? But they're not Africans. They're Indians, all right? That's how he can describe it best. He's saying, look, they look like this, so you can get a clear perspective. All right, so we're in this book from the Department of the Interior, U.S. Geographical and Geological Survey of the Rocky Mountain region, just Contributions to North American Ethnology, Volume 3, Tribes of California by Stephen Powers from 1877. So about chapter 1 here, we're talking about the Karok, or the tribes of California, Northern California in this case, on the Klamath region. It says here the Karok are probably the finest tribe in California. Their stature is only a trifle under the American. They have well-sized bodies, erect and strongly knit together, of an almost feminine roundness and smoothness, the legs better developed than the arms, and when a Karok has the weapon to which he is accustomed, a sharp stone gripped in the hand, he will face a white man and give him a handsome fight. The Klamath face is a little less broad than that of the Sacramento, and early manhood nearly as oval as the American. Cheekbones large and round caped, but not too prominent. Head brashy cephalic. Eyes bright, moderately well-sized, and freely open straight across the face. Nose thick, walled, and broad, all right? The nose is thick, straight as the Grecian. Nares avoid. Root not so depressed as in the Sacramento Valley. Forehead low and wide, nearly on a perpendicular line with the chin. Color ranging from hazel or buff hazel to old bronze and almost black. Okay, again, from what? From hazel, this is their complexion, from hazel, buff hazel to old bronze and almost to black. Almost to black. Okay, so we all know what kind of like hazel, you know, kind of looks like. If you guys, you know, the hazel color, right, kind of brownish. This is a version of it. There's different, there's a palette so you can see, you know, hazel color palette you guys can see. And then we got old bronze, right? Old bronze, right? As it says here, vintage old bronze, right? Another version here says colored loose silver leaf old bronze. All right, you guys see old bronze. Another version of old bronze, kind of like copper colored tribes of America. And then we got a darker versions of bronze. Look at this, right? Old bronze, Chinese chalice, dragons engraved. Oh, look at that. Dragons, the dragons engraved on it, all right, on the old bronze. So again, these people here, the Karok, these are their colors ranging from hazel or buff hazel to old bronze and almost to black. In chapter 4 it says here the Yurok, this large tribe inhabit the Klamath from the junction of the Trinity to the mouth and the coast from Gold Bluff up to a point about 6 miles above the mouth of the Klamath. Their name is of Karok origin. They themselves have only names for separate villages as Ri, Kwa, Mita, Pekwan, Srigon, White Speck. Living nearer the coast, there are several shades darker. So listen, remember the other tribes we just read about? They were from hazel to almost black, right? Now they're saying that these people are even darker shades than the Karok, frequently almost black, literally almost black, so-called Negro, and they are not so fine in race, having lower foreheads and more projecting chins. On the coast they incline to be pudgy in stature, though on the Klamath there are many specimens of splendid savagery. All right, so dodge the hijack, how they be wording these things about savages and all that. We're in chapter 10 here, and it says the Pat-Awat. Around Humboldt Bay, there is a broad margin of land which is, without dispute, the most valuable compact body of soil for agricultural purposes in all the northern parts of the state. The very jewel of the Californian coast. Over in the second paragraph says here the Pat-Awat live on the lower waters of Mad River and around Humboldt Bay, as far south as Arcata, perhaps originally as far down as Eureka. They are black-skinned. Again, they are black-skinned, so-called black, dark complexion, so-called Negroes, pudgy in stature, well cushioned with adipose tissue
with little berry-like eyes, often bleared, low foreheads, harsh black, stiff hair, extremely timid and inoffensive, and a prey all their lives long to the most frightful and ghoulish superstitions I have heard anywhere. All right, that was his opinion about them. But he's letting you know, again, they are what? So-called black-skinned. Continuing further ahead in the book, it says here, the Yuki have disproportionately large heads mounted like cannonballs on smallish, short bodies with rather protuberant abdomens. Their eyes are trifle undersized but keen and restless, and from the execrable greenwood smudge in which they live in winter, they are not unfrequently swollen and horribly protruding. Their noses are stout, short, and straight, the nares expanded, and they have heavy shocks of stiff, bristly hair. Listen to this: cut short and hence bushy looking, stiff, bristly hair, bushy looking. They are variously complexion, all right, many shades, copper colored tribes of America, without any perceptible law, from yellowish, all right, yellowish, not yellow, yellowish, all right, not white, light skin, right, but to brown, right, to brown skin, and almost black, so-called black, almost black, brown, blush. We know they're not talking about white when they're saying black, okay? Because they went from light to dark. So almost black with bushy looking hair, huh? Do you see? Do you understand? Now again, let's pretend this is a police officer giving a description. Yes, we got a suspect here. He's brown to almost black, bushy looking hair. And again, so you know what I'm talking about? We're right here in chapter 19. It says here that Gallinomero, or the Gallinomero, in Russian River Valley from Cloverdale down to the Redwood Belt and south to the Santa Rosa Creek, and also in Dry Creek Valley, lived the remnants of a tribe whom the Spaniards called the Gallinomero Nation. The Gallinomero proper occupy only Dry Creek and Russian River, below Hellsburg within the limits above named, while above Hellsburg principally between Geyserville and Cloversdale are the Misal, La Magun, or Musal Lakun, and the Caime. This nation may be considered a branch of the great family of the Pomo, whose habitat is coextensive with Russian River Valley, covers the lowlands on the northwest of Clear Lake, all includes all the habitable coast from the Usal Creek down to Bodega. Now I want to show you guys what it says about this tribe. It says they are nearly black. They are what? Nearly black, so-called black, dark skin, so-called Negroes. Ventura being the blackest of all. Ventura is their chief, one of their chiefs. He is the blackest of all, the chief. The chief is the so-called blackest of all. And on a warm, sunny day in February, when he is chopping wood briskly, his cuticle shines like that of a Louisiana field hand. What? Wait a minute. Is that a racist remark? Are you trying to say he looks like a so-called slave or somebody working on a plantation or something? I hope that's not what he's trying to say. But listen to the analogies. And he's describing him. It says here, the nose is moderately high, straight and emphatic with thick walls and void of nearly round nares. Lips rather thick and sensual. Forehead low but nearly perpendicular with the chin. Face rounder and flatter than in the Atlantic Indian. Eyes well sized and freely open, straight across the face, freely open, all right? With sluggish but foxy expression. Color varying from old bronze or brown almost to black. Again, we're talking about these Indians here, all right? Though an occasional freckled face and sparse whisker betray a touch of Castilian blood in the veins. They live. Continuing a little further, in the book it says here, the Patwin, all right, the Patwin tribe present as good an illustration as any of the traditional Digger Indian physique, and it will be well to describe it somewhat minutely. A little further down says the color of their complexion, right, varies from a brassy, and a hazel, almost to a jet black. All right, you see copper-colored tribes of America, not just one shade, many shades. But you see the trend, right? And even jet black, okay? Jet black. so-called Negro, right? I'm in chapter 28. It says here that Achomawi, the Pit River Indians, are divided into a number of tribes, of which the principal are the following. In Fall River Basin, the Achomawi; on the South Fork, the Humawi; in Hot Springs Valley, the Estaki Wak; in the same valley below Hot Springs, the Hantewa; in Round Valley. All right, so we're going to talk about these in Hot Springs Valley, one of the tribes there. It says, let one remount at the hot springs and ride one easy day's journey down Big Valley, where the mountains help to keep out the thieving Modoc slavers, and there is much improvement in the forms we meet. The faces are broad and black and calm and shining with an Ethiopian unctuousness, whatever that means. But see what they're telling you? Ethiopian? Their face is Ethiopian. The foreheads are like a wall, and those solid round caped cheekbones standing over against one another, so far apart, and in those massive lower jaws there is unmistakable strength bred in the bone through tranquil generations. But again, he's saying their faces are broad and black, but shining with an Ethiopian untouchedness. Is that what he means, untouchedness? But Ethiopian, right? You already know what he means by that. We got another example further down in the book. It says here that Taipoxi, chief of the Chimteya, was a notable Indian, and his generation holding undisputed sovereignty in the valley of the Merced, from the South Fork to the plains. Early every morning, as soon as the families had had time decently to prepare breakfast, he would step out before his wigwam and lift up his sonorous voice like a stentor, summoning the whole village to work in the gold diggings, and himself went forth to share the labor of the humblest. Men, women, and children went out together, taking their dinners along, and the village was totally deserted until about 3 o'clock. Everyone worked hard, inspired by the example of their great chieftain, the men making dives in the Merced of a minute or more and bringing up rich gravel, while the women and children watched it on shore. They got plenty of gold and lived in civilized luxury so long as Taipoxi was alive. He was described by one who knew him well as a magnificent specimen of a savage. All right, that's the hijack. Standing fully 6 feet high, straight and sinewy, shiny, black as an Ethiopian. Again, shiny black as an Ethiopian. Shiny black chief, Indian California chief, shiny black like an Ethiopian. He sounds like Abraham Lincoln, how they're describing him. Shiny black as an Ethiopian. Wake up, break the spell. Stop with the Pan-African opinions. With eyes like an eagle's, a lofty forehead, nostrils high and strongly chiseled, each of them showing a clean, bold lips. He died in 1857 and was buried in Rum Hollow with unparalleled pomp and splendor. Over 1,200 Indians were present at his funeral. You understand the power? You understand how much respect, how much honor this person, this chief had? We honor him and remember him. And here we are in regards to the Carella Indians, in their dance as describing here. And I just want to show you here, it says, then again, sitting in a solemn circle on the ground or slowly walking in a ring around the fire, hand joined in hand, while the flames gleam upon their swarthy, can I get a swarthy faces, ripple in the folds of their barbaric paludaments of tasseled deerskin, and light up their grotesque chaplets and club cues and nodding shadows. They intone those weird and eldritch chantings. All right, so he's trying to talk bad about their ceremonial dance. All right, but he's letting you know they got swarthy faces. All right. In another part of the book, another reference that says here, and yet when I saw the swarthy Yurok, we already got a reference of them being so-called black-skinned and various other shades. Right here calling them swarthy, creeping on all fours out of their round door holes or sticking their shock pates up through the hatchway of the assembly chamber, just on the level with the earth. I thought of black bears as often as anything. He's scared of them just like a black bear. Swarthy Yurok. Right here they're still talking about the Yurok tribe, the Yurok people. It says here, filthy as they are, they do not neglect the cold morning bath. All right, so he's calling them dirty until they have learned to wear complete civilized suits. It says here, take off the narrow breeched cloths, which were their only coverings, and dip up the chilly brine over them with their double hands, letting it trickle all down their swarthy bodies in a manner that made me shiver to see. All right, swarthy. The sexes bathe apart, and the women do not go into the sea without some garment on. Here, they're talking about the henagi. It says here, the henagi deserve special mention on account of the handsome canoes which they fashion out of redwood. I saw one on Humboldt Bay, which had been launched by them on Smith River, and which had therefore demonstrated its seaworthiness by a voyage of over 100 miles. It was 42 feet long and 8 feet 4 inches wide, and capable of carrying 24 men or 5 tons of freight. It was a thing of beauty, sitting plumb and lightly on the sea, smoothly polished and so symmetrical that a pound's weight on either side would throw it slightly out of trim. 24 tall, swarthy boatmen, all right? This is the Henagi Indians they're talking about again. Swarthy boatmen who have a ship that can travel 100 miles, naked as said except around the loins, standing erect in it as their habit is, and with their narrow paddles measuring off the blue waters with long, even sweeps, must have been a fine spectacle. It must have been a very fine spectacle. Wish we could have witnessed that ourselves, right? Swarthy boatmen, so swarthy. We're gonna talk about the Gualala tribe. Guala. Interesting, huh? The Gualala says, while sitting near these Gualala and looking at the circle of swarthy faces, all right, so swarthy, so-called black faces, right? What does swarthy mean? Which the staggering blazes redly lighten up. I was not a little impressed with their resemblance to those calm, grand phases of old Egypt, not of modern Egypt, but old, the real Egypt, but old Egypt over there in the Mississippi. Is that what you're talking about? See what he's saying? These Gualala with swarthy faces resembling faces of old Egypt. Probably the reader will smile here, and I am well aware how greatly inferior these poor diggers are to the mighty race who built Cheops. That theme park over there, we're talking about Tamari, the real one. That's why their faces resemble the old Egypt, because this is Egypt. You understand? Gualala. He says, I saw here the same scanty beards, the same full voluptuous lips, the same straight strong noses with thick walls and dilated nostrils, the same broad cheekbones, the same large and prominent eyes, and most the same expressions of restful and placid strength that I have seen among the Egyptian sculptures of the Berlin museums. He's talking about the sculptures. He ain't even talking about the people he's seeing over there on the other side. He's saying these people look like the ones in the sculptures of the museums of these Egyptian sculptures. Listen to what he's saying. And the British museums of London, where did they really get these relics from? A lot of those came from ancient America. They brought them to these museums, and they told you, they lied to you, said they were coming from over there, that desert over there in Africa, Middle East, Asia over there. But this author, this is a very scholarly source, he's telling you that they resemble these Egyptian sculptures that are in the Berlin museums and the British Museum of London. The differences are that the Indians open their eyes more freely, except in extreme old age, when they are shriveled and nearly burnt out by the smoke, and have lower foreheads and more shrunken cheeks. All right. Again, this was Contributions to the North American Ethnology, Volume 3, by the Department of the Interior, okay, U.S. Geographical and Geological Survey of the Rocky Mountains region, Tribes of California, by Stephen Powers from 1877.
Wow. We're gonna go ahead and get some more. We're not done. Hang in there. And get some more. And get some more sources. We ain't done. Okay. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that first part, that reading. All right, again, we're gonna get some more sources here. Just 1 second. Okay. This is a Yosemite Valley Indian. I colorized the image. This is a drawing of a Pomo Indian. Okay, we're gonna get into this other sources we have here. Again, get it like it's the first time. Appreciate you guys in the live chat here going over this with me again. Yeah, any skepticism and any opinions, the research speaks for itself. I don't really care what people feel or think or have to say about what's written. If these ain't sources for you, then anything you call a source ain't a source either. So now nobody got a source, but you gotta have a foundation, and hopefully one day you guys understand what a primary source is and the difference, people's opinions and stuff, and what people are actually seeing, meeting people, seeing, describing, you know. Get into this some more of the sources we got here. Appreciate you guys tuned in live. All right.
And we're in this book, United States Exploring Expedition, during the years 1838, 1839, 1840, 1841, 1842, under the command of Charles Wilkes, USN, Ethnography and Philology by Horatio Hale, Philologist of the Expedition, again from 1846, Smithsonian Libraries. And we go to page 199, and it says here the Californian Division. The natives of this class are chiefly distinguished by their dark color. Those of northern or upper California are a shade browner than the Oregon Indians, while some tribes in the peninsula are said to be nearly black, so-called Negroes. In other respects, they have the physiognomy of their race: broad faces, a low forehead, and lank coarse hair. What I wanted to show you guys, what it's telling you here right away, right? Dark colors, nearly black. All right, so we continue. We're here in the California Farmer, Journal of Useful Science. It says here, San Francisco, California, Friday morning, February 17th, 1860. All right, I want to show you guys something very interesting. This was not easy to find. All right, and we're going to zoom in to this part right here. And it says here, California Notes by Alex S. Taylor, the Indigenology of California, second series, continued from the Farmer on October 26, 1860. Sacramento Indians, number 2. All right, the Indians of the Sacramento Valley and those of the northern Sierra Nevada and of the mountains of the west of Sacramento. It says here, the California Indians are in stature short, but they are well and stoutly formed. Their features are coarse, broad, and of a dark chocolate color. All right, dark chocolate color. And just in case you don't know what dark chocolate looks like, I can show you guys. Dark chocolate, that one's actually not even the raw dark, right? It can get darker. Dark chocolate, right? Dark chocolate. What you mean dark chocolate? Complexion. Dark chocolate features. Dark chocolate. Let's go back. Their features are coarse, broad, and of a dark chocolate color. Their hair is black, heavy, and matted. Say what? Rewind. Pull up. It says their features are coarse, broad, and of a dark chocolate color. Their hair is black, heavy, and matted. Matted, heavy hair, thick, matted, with a chocolate color complexion. Again, Where in this other book is called A Voyage of Discovery into the South Sea and Bering Straits for the purpose of exploring a northeast passage undertaken in the years 1815 to 1818 at the expense of His Highness the Chancellor of the Empire Count Romanzov and the ship Rurik under the command of the lieutenant in the Russian Imperial Navy Otto von Kotzebue. This is volume 1, 1821. We're on page 282 of the book. It says here, the coast of California is inhabited by so many tribes that there are frequently in the mission Indians of more than 10 different races. Listen, each of which has its own language. Many different nations here with different languages. Stop grouping everybody. Stop generalizing. As we were leaving the mission, we were surprised by 2 groups of Indians, which were also composed of different nations. They came in military array, that is, quite naked, and painted with gay colors, or happy or bright colors, right? The heads of the most were adorned with feathers and other finery. Some of them, however, had their long, disordered hair covered with down, and their faces daubed in the most frightful manner. There is nothing remarkable in their war dance, and I only regretted that I did not understand the words of their song. The physiognomy of these Indians, all right, listen to this, is ugly, stupid, and savage. All right, that's the hijack, because they're prejudiced views. Otherwise, they are well formed, tolerably tall, and of a dark brown complexion. Dark brown complexion. Again, dark brown complexion. The women are short and very ugly. They have much of the Negro in their countenance. They have what? Much of the Negro in their countenance. Are you guys hearing? That's the hijack with all their negative insults of these indigenous people. Remember, these are the colonizers' views. The women are short again, but they have much of the Negro in their countenance, only that a Negro head may be called handsome in the comparison with theirs. They are principally distinguished from the Negroes by their very long, smooth, and coal-black hair. All right? Negro in their countenance. All right, so we continue. Now we're gonna basically read from the same book, but this is actually volume 3 now instead of volume 1. This is the same book. We're gonna go to a different part here. Again, the same book we just read. This is just volume 3. I'm on page 47 of this book, and it says here, in their general appearance, they resemble each other except the Tosholovonians, whom we soon learned to distinguish by their marked physiognomy, which the fathers could not do. They have all a very savage look and are of a very dark color, a very dark color, a very dark color. So Dodge the hijack, they say, oh, they have a savage look, oh, all of them? You mean you're afraid of them? You're afraid of their look, huh? That's why you're saying they're savage, huh? Their flat, broad countenance with large staring eyes is shaded by black, thick, all right, thick, long, and smooth hair. Thick, long, and smooth hair. Thick hair and very dark color complexion. The gradations of color, or the different shades of color in these different nations, the languages which are radically different from each other, the mode of life, art, arms, and some of them various lines tattooed about the chin and neck, all right? Tattoos all the way up to the chin and neck. The way in which they paint themselves for war and for dance distinguish the different tribes, all right? The different tribes just here in California alone, all right? You guys paying attention? Again, a very savage look and are of a very dark color. Okay, now we're going to read from this book, Narrative of a Voyage to the Pacific and Bering Straits to cooperate with the polar expeditions performed in His Majesty's ship Blossom under the command of Captain F.W. Beechey, R.N., in the years 1825, 1826, 1827, and 1828, published by authority of the Lords Commissioners of the Admiralty in 2 volumes. This is a volume 2, and this was published in 1831. And in regards to the California Indians, we're on page 76 of this book. It says the stature of the Indians which we saw in the missions was by no means diminutive. The Halcones are of a good height, and the Tularios were thought to be generally above the standard of Englishmen. Their complexion is much darker than that of the South Sea Islanders, and their features far inferior in beauty. Okay, this is a major drop right here. If you don't understand why, I'm going to show you. Now, it's telling you that the Indians in California, their complexion is much darker than that of South Sea Islanders. Who's the South Sea Islanders? Here we are with some South Sea Islanders, and the good thing is we just did, the video of the Southeast Asians and the Indian subcontinent indigenous people and how they truly looked. All right, I want to show you, these are South Sea Islanders right here. As you guys can see, these South Sea Islanders probably worked on a sugar plantation in Australia. South Sea Islanders, all right? South Sea Islanders. We're just talking about some South Sea Islanders, all right? South Sea Islanders. So I wanted to show you the picture colorized. I was able to colorize it. You guys see? These are South Sea Islanders, all right? Asians, yes, that's Asia. There's another picture here. It says group of South Sea Islanders, 1890, all right? 1890, so you guys can see. And they're very dark complexion people, right? You guys can take a good look so you can have a clear perspective of what they're using as a reference. Let's go back to the book. Again, the Halcones are of a good height, and the Tularios were thought to be generally above the standard of Englishmen. Their complexion is much darker, okay? Much darker than that of the South Sea Islanders. All right, you guys understand? Much darker. And these are not Africans. And the South Sea Islanders are also not Africans. You got to break the spell. In their persons, they are extremely dirty, particularly their heads, which are so thatched with wiry black hair that it is only by separating the locks with the hand that it can be got at for the purposes of cleanliness. All right, did you just hear that? Major drop. They got what? They got locks. They're darker than the South Sea Islanders, and they got locks in their hair when they're not taken care of, when their hair is not being taken care of. All right, now these people are in missions. Remember that we just read, these people are in missions. So who knows what conditions these people are living under? And then you got these writers coming and talking bad about them and describing them in such negative ways, right? But I want you guys to really see what's going on here. These are primary sources. Do you guys understand what a primary source is? This is not my ideas. This is not blackwashing. These are primary sources telling you, all right? How much more clear is that? Darker than South Sea Islanders, and these people have locks. Okay, now we're in this book, The Wonders of the Yosemite Valley and of California, by Professor Kneeland. I just wanted to show you that his full name is Samuel Kneeland, just in case you're interested. This was printed in 1871. So we're on page 52 of this book. It says here, the Shoshones, Utes, and Paiutes are the principal Indian tribes seen along the railroad from Salt Lake to Stockton. In the Yosemite Valley, all right, California, Central California, right? Where is Yosemite Valley? There are the diggers, so called because in times of scarcity they subsist on acorns, roots, and insects and their grubs dug from the earth. Though low in the scale of man, they are not the abject creatures generally represented. They are mild, harmless, and singularly honest. Of their honesty you can have no doubt when you see in the woods and valleys little storehouses raised above inundations and made of bushes, grasses, and stakes, in which their acorns and nuts are stored for the winter. They always respect each other's property, thus arranged, but these repositories have often been broken into and robbed by mischievous and unscrupulous whites. As usual with the American Aborigines, they are more sinned against than sinning. They are very dark colored. Again, they are what? Very, at expression, very dark colored. Remember? Chocolate, dark chocolate, remember? Fond of gaudy beads and colors, and expert hunters and fishermen. They will catch a string of trout where the eastern angler, with his flies and costly outfit, cannot get a bite. They are addicted to intemperance when they can get fire water, all right, liquor, fire water. You already heard ODB, fire water and the Indians don't mix. But for this and the consequent poverty, misery, and disease, the whites are accountable. All right. Again, Yosemite Valley, indigenous people, I've shown many images and pictures of them colorized. They are very dark colored, and they are so-called Negroes, copper-colored tribes of America, indigenous Americans, and they're not Africans. All right. So we are in this book now. Now this was in French, guys. All right. Yeah, I found a lot of stuff in different languages, and I've had all these books here, all these links saved all these years, and I'm like, whoa, I got to start reading these books. I've been storing these links for years, and little by little we can get through them together. It's no problem. Now it says here, Voyage de la Pérouse, auteur du monde, publique, conforme du décret. All right, you guys know. So it's written in 1797. It's a voyage of this de la Pérouse, 1797. Now we're on page 249, and they're talking about the Indians in Monterey, California. Monterey, as you guys can see here, Monterey. But a lot of the French people listening right now can verify what I'm going to say. Down here it says, their color, le color es tres approchante. It's approaching. Their color is approaching. De, or the, right? Approaching. Their color is approaching what? Celle des négres. That of the Negroes. Dont les cheveux ne sont point les nus. All right, just want to show you guys I ain't making it up. And I grabbed the words, exact words, and I came here to translate it, detected French, as you guys can see, and it says in English, their color is very close to that of Negroes, whose hair is not woolly. All right, Negroes whose hair is not woolly. Talking about the Indians of Monterey. You guys can pause the video and go verify that it's the exact same words. I'm not adding anything to this, all right? All right, so we're back in the book, and we're gonna go to another part of the book. And we're going to try to grab this whole paragraph right here, hit copy, come to the translator, copy, paste, and it says here, the color of these Indians, which is that of the Negroes. In this case, it's not that approaching, it's literally telling you it's just like the Negroes. The color of these Indians, which is that of the Negroes, religious house, their warehouses, which are built of bricks and plastered with mortar, the area of the ground on which the grain is trodden, the oxen, the horses, everything reminded us of a dwelling in Saint Dominique or in any other colony. They said it looked just like they were in Haiti. They felt like they were in Haiti, Saint Domingue. The men and women are assembled at the sound of the bell. A monk takes them to work, to church, and to all the exercises. See, they're living like servants there in these missions. We say it with difficulty. The resemblances is so perfect that we have seen men and women loaded with iron, others in block D, and finally the noise of whippings could have struck our ears. This punishment being also admitted, but exercised with little, all right? And it keeps going. So you hear what's going on? These people are being treated just like the ones in the stories of these slave narratives, these evil slave masters whipping the slaves. And again, these are people of dark complexion, dark, as it says here, the color of these Indians, which is that of the Negroes. All right, you guys overstanding. This is from a French book, and anybody who speaks French can verify this right now. You can pause the video yourself and translate it if you like yourself. All right, this paragraph, and that's what it says, okay? I hope you guys see how clear it is. This is a second video on California tribes, and I got a lot more just in California alone. And I'll keep showing you guys how many more books, and these are books I've never read to you guys before. Even in my series from Indigenous American to African American, which is 22 parts. Do you understand how much primary sources, historical facts, genealogy we got? All the work and research is beyond a doubt. And if you're still stuck in Pan-African beliefs, that's your choice. Cognitive dissonance is a real thing. You guys need to break the spell. But I really appreciate all my real followers, all the people who's been here along the way, all the journey, through all the research. Thank you for sticking around, being patient with me. We're learning together. I appreciate you guys, all the support. Thanks again for tuning in one more time.
But we ain't done. We ain't going nowhere. Yeah, but really do appreciate all the real supporters out there. We got a couple more sources we're gonna go over. Just bear with me, guys. Again, appreciate you guys tuning in here live, learning with me, going over the information with all the new people as well. That haven't watched the video yet or seen the previous research we done on my series from Indigenous American to African American, things like that. All right. Yeah. Wow. What we got here, Indigenous people of San Diego, California, a fiesta by the San Luis Rey River Mission, 1911. As you guys can see, this was a black and white picture I colorized. We're gonna just jam a little bit while we get started again.
We're in the book Voyages and Travels in Various Parts of the World during the years 1803, 1804, 1805, 1806, and 1807 by G.H. von Langsdorff. This is known as Langsdorff's Voyage. This is volume 2 or part 2, written in 1814. And we're going to go to the part of the book where he writes about his narratives in his voyage. As it says here, Langsdorff's narrative of the Rezanoff voyage to Nueva California or New California, 1806. Around page 55, it talks about the neophytos. It says the neophytos of the mission, San Francisco, are the original inhabitants of these and the neighboring parts. A few come from the mouth of a large river that flows into the northernmost part of the harbor, and some from the neighborhood of Port Bodega, which lies to the north of San Francisco. Okay, so again, these are the original inhabitants of San Francisco. You guys heard? Now let me go to the part where they're describing them. So on the next page, we go towards the bottom here. It says these Indians are of a middling or rather short stature, and their color is of such dark brown. Again, their color is of such dark brown, very, very dark brown, right? Very dark brown, that it approaches black, so-called black. This color is owing very much to their filthy mode of living. All right, dodge the hijack. Here comes their racist remarks and prejudice, stereotypes, to the power of the sun's rays, to their custom of smearing their bodies with mud and ember dust. That's not why people are so-called black. And their slovenly way of wearing their scanty coverings. He goes on to say Their lips are large, large lips, thick, right? Thick and protruding. That's the lips, right? Thick and protruding large lips. Their nose is broad. Their nose is broad and flat. Flat, broad noses, thick lips, and Negro-like. All right, again, and Negro-like. Again, there's dark brown, very dark brown. They got thick lips, flat, broad noses, and Negro-like noses, huh? Their features in many respects resemble those of the Negro, because they are so-called Negroes. Oh, their color also. So what's the difference? But their black hair, however, is in the highest degree different, being long and straight. All right, I guess they're trying to compare that to somebody who they would see in, Africa, woolly, very woolly, short, left to grow naturally. It would often hang down even below the hips, but they commonly cut it to the length of 4 or 5 inches when it sticks out like bristles, and this to the eye of the European is very repellent. America's a true old world, many phenotypes here, many different types of hair, and yes, there are so-called Negroes with all types of hair all over the world, not just one type. But I want to remind you in the last parts, right, we got already matted hair and bushy hair. So we had that in California too. So again, their colors is of such a dark brown, that it approaches black. And I'm quoting the book again. You guys can see the color palette. Very dark brown, shades of very dark brown, almost so-called black, almost, right? They were saying almost blackish. All right, you guys can see, get a reference. All right, so before continuing, wanted to just point something out, make something clear. A lot of people be like, Kurimeo still not Negro, they're still not the same hair. Just want to point out, this person right here, he's from the Lira tribe. Says here, Lira tribe chief, old engraved portrait, Eastern Africa, created by Neville, published on Le Tour du Monde, Paris, 1867. All right, you see that? You see his hair? This guy looks very much like a lot of the drawings of the Californians. All right, a lot of the drawings of the Californians, with the long hair, as they were just describing them. We were reading. Thick lips, flat, broad noses, very dark complexion with long flowing hair. All right, and this is an African, so you got to dodge your own hijacks. Just another example here, so you can see it's all over the place. The chief of the Lira tribe, people of color, indigenous people with swarthy, dark complexion, so-called Negroes, have all types of hair. Just wanted to make that clear to you guys. Just to corroborate with what they're saying in the other book, says here, life on the plains and among the diggings, being scenes and adventures of an overland journey to California, with particular incidents of the rude mistakes and sufferings of the immigrants, the Indian tribes, the present and the future of the Great West, by A. Delano. This is from 1857. And he says the Indians of California are more swarthy in complexion and of a smaller stature than those east of the Rocky Mountains. And although they may be placed in situations where they will fight bravely, they are less bold and more cowardly in the main than those of the Great Plains of the west of Missouri. All right, so it seems they very docile people and friendly people, small in stature, but very, very dark complexion, almost so-called Negro-like, right? Swarthy. Now, I wanted to read something very interesting I found in this book. It says here, June 29th, as early as we could consistently, we left our encampment for the fort at which we were to bid adieu to the sweet water and launch into the region beyond the Rocky Mountains. Near the fort, which was 2 miles below our camp, we found a cluster of lodges, which belonged to one of a singular class of men who leave the comforts of civilized life and bury themselves in the wild and hospitable regions of the far west. At first, I mistook him for an Indian. All right, listen to what he's saying. He's actually thought he's talking about settlers. Now, we don't know if these are Americans mixed with Indians or straight up, Europeans that are settling in here. But he saw these people living with the Indians, so he mistook one of them. How do you mistake, if the Indians are Swarti, how do you mistake one for an Indian? But look what he says about this person. It says, I mistook him for an Indian from his dress, his long black locks. He got locks, long black locks, dreadlocks, locks, hair locks, his long black locks, and his Swarti weather beating complexion. So he's saying, why did he mistake him for an Indian? Because of his Swarti complexion and his long black locks. Do you understand what they're saying? He was a man apparently 35 or 40 years of age, with a pleasing countenance and mild blue eyes. He had blue eyes. All right, Swarti with locks, whom I found to be well educated, far above the humble sphere of life to which he had consigned himself. He was surrounded by 3 or 4 squaws and a number of children. You hear that? He had 4 squaws, and he was dropping his seed there, who seemed to look upon him as the grand head of the family in the relative position of husband and father. He readily entered into conversation and told me that he had lived that life for 18 years without once having been to the States, dependent upon chance for supplies. He's never been to the colonies, the 13 colonies. All right, this, I believe it's a settler, that's the way he's saying it, European, and it obviously is resembling and sounds like a black European, you guys are paying attention, who settled with these squaws and had children with them. Now, history will go on, and they will remember the mom, right? They will say, well, he's a mulatto kid. His mom was an Indian squaw, and his dad was a white man from Europe. See how they add the hijack? They do that a lot in our historic references. That's why we have to really dig into the stuff when we think they're talking about white people just because they're talking about Europeans. But this person right here had long black locks and very Swarti complexion, weather beaten complexion, Swarti. Thought that was interesting. A little bit more correlation here, so you guys can see that the French were also corroborating with what we're learning. Says here, this is from the Bibliothèque des Chemins de Fer. So the library of the Chemins de Fer, 6 series, or Duxime, or maybe 16 series, history and voyages, right? And this is the Voyage to California, or Voyage in California, by Edward Auger, all right, from 1852 to 1853. This was written in 1854. And we go to page 164, and we go to the little paragraph right here. And, you know, it helps out to be able to speak Spanish a little bit. It helps me out sometimes with the reading in other Latin, so-called Latin languages, right? So I wanted to copy this part. We're going to bring it to Google Translate, right? And we translate it, and it says here, the size of these savages seldom exceeds the height of 5 feet 2-3 inches. Their limbs are slender and poorly muscled. They have large lips that project forward, wide flat noses like the Ethiopians, right? Like the Ethiopians. Their hair is black, coarse, and straight. All right, so the French guy just corroborating with the other guy who took the voyage. You see, they're saying almost the exact same thing. Large lips that project, you know, wide flat noses. And like Ethiopians, who's the Ethiopians, right? Always a reference to people of color. Let me back up again. You guys can see this is what I translated. This you guys can see I'm not making it up. This is what I grabbed from the book. And again, it's all this part right here. All right, so you guys can translate on your own. Primary sources. And I know a lot of you have seen this image before online, colorized, definitely copper colored American. And it says Nativo Americano cerca de San Francisco. So we just read about the San Francisco Indians, how they were dark brown in complexion. All right, just to get it clear, this is a historic image here. As you guys see in the bottom, Indian of California. All right. And now we got some other people here from another European country letting us know what they have to say about what the Californian Indians appeared to them like. It says here, Versuch igner getrum sildemrum der Republik Mexico. So this is written by Edward Mullenforth, or the Mullenforth Voyage, right? Or travels to Mexico and California, because California was Mexico. This is from 1844. Page 455 of this book, just in case you guys want the reference. If you can translate this on your own, if you speak this, go ahead and do so yourself. I'm gonna start right here where it says Die Wilden Indier, or the Wild Indians, right? So I grabbed this whole part right here up to Hauptthal right here. I went to Google Translate, and this is what we get. It says it detected German. I typed it in myself, and I'm assuming to the translation it says the wild Indians swarmed in significant numbers at the borders of the settlements, already grown and blackish brown in color. Blackish brown in color. They have long black hair that flows freely around their shoulders. And again, another correlation. Other types of Europeans letting you know the inhabitants that they encountered in California are blackish brown in color. 7 years residence in the great deserts of North America by the Abbé M. Dominish, apostolical missionary, canon of Montpellier, member of the Pontifical Academy Tiberina, and of the Geographical Ethnographical Societies of France. This is volume 1. Over in page 85 says here, all the tribes which inhabit the Rocky Mountains and the western coast of North America, from California exclusively to the regions inhabited by the Eskimo. These tribes bear no resemblance to each other. Again, another reference telling us the different nations here, the different kinds of people just in this region of North America. They're not all the same. They don't bear no resemblance to each other. The stupid and pusillanimous Californians, all right, Dutch the hijack with their insults, with their low foreheads and skins as black, all right, as black as that of the Guinea Negroes. Just like the Guinea Negroes, right, in West Africa, just like them, same color. But with a different cast of countenance to the latter, forming a contrast with an almost white tribe inhabiting countries much further north. So very different, right? Contrasting, very different than the white tribes or light-skinned tribes inhabiting countries much further north. Neither do they resemble the Mongols, okay? They don't resemble the Mongols. They're not Mongols. Just because they got long flowing hair doesn't mean they're Mongols. Whatever Desmoulins may say, for La Perouse says clearly, the indigenous inhabitants of Port Francais are not Eskimos, and the description he gives of them does not agree with the Mongolian type. It's not Mongolian type. Who? These natives of California, these indigenous people of California who have skins as black as that of the Guinea Negroes. You overstand? Dodge the hijack with your out of Africa theories. So just real quick, when we're talking about an Asian countenance, do you mean something like this? Asian countenance? You know? Do you mean something like this? With an Asian countenance? So you gotta dodge the hijack because these are Africans. These are the Khoi or Khoisan people. A lot of them got a very Asian countenance, whatever that's supposed to mean, right? So we're going to talk about them. You know, they're described always as dark yellowish, you know, not as dark as the people in California. I just want to point that out, you know, and these people are in Africa. They're supposed to be one of the oldest people in Africa. And look how Asian they look. Now, how do we know? Because their own story tells that they migrated there. How did we know they didn't come out of Asia first? Let's say the Caucasus Mountain or something like that. Supposedly they came out of the Sahara, then they went to Europe, and then they came back. That's supposed to be their story. You guys gotta research this. It's not really proven. They don't know why they went out of Africa and then came back. They can't really explain that. They're only saying they came out of Africa because that's what goes with the false narratives. So they have to say that the Khoisan also came out of Africa. But their starting point was in Europe. That's when they can actually see that they came into Africa at some point, and then they migrated down, into the South Africa region. So, a very Asian countenance, to me. I guess that would be my personal opinion, right? So now we're going to get into this book. It's called The Human Race by Louis Figueroa, illustrated by 243 engravings on wood and 8 chromolithographs. This is from 1872. It says here, the color of the skin is a very convenient characteristic to fix upon in order to identify the various races, since this quality is peculiarly adapted to suggest itself through the eye. Its scientific importance must, however, by no means be exaggerated. Certain individuals, though they be members of the white or Caucasian race, may yet be very darkly tinted. Okay? Pay attention. Free whites, a lot of whites are actually coming from North Africa. They're still called the white race or Caucasian race, even though they're very dark and they are so-called Negroes. They would be considered Negroes. They're still part of the Caucasian race. Arabs are often of a brown color, which nearly approaches black, and yet they possess the finest marks of the white or Caucasian race. Arabs. The Abyssinians, although very brown, are not black, so-called black. The American Indians, who we rank as members of the red race, often have dark brown, all right, often have what? Dark brown or almost black skins, okay? Among members of the white race in northern latitudes, especially women, the skin has often a yellowish tint. All right, so they're trying to make a point here, which, I kind of agree. You can't just base it off just appearance alone and just on a tag alone, like a classification, like, oh, he's a Caucasian. What does that mean? The original, again, Caucasians. All right. So as you guys can see here, it says Caucasian, right? What is it showing you? A so-called Negro, right? And then it says European, of course. They're going to show this. And then a Mongolian, who's also swarty, so swarty. All right. But again, and this is supposed to be from an old Encyclopedia Britannica, I believe, that I haven't been able to find. Is in one of the volumes. It has actually the very old Encyclopedia Britannicas. It's many, many volumes. And I'm still tracing for it because in the internet, it's just the image. And it is from one of these scholarly books. And we're digging hard because they don't want us to find this. So look at the difference of the Caucasian and the European. Let's go back. Right, so they were making the point here, but one of the points of the American Indians, what? Even though they're being called the red race, copper-colored tribes of America, they actually have dark brown or almost black skins. Okay? This is around page 363. I just wanted to point this out. Says here the Felon family were also called Felatas, Poles, and Pelas. Now we're in Africa, all right? Just real quick, we're gonna sidetrack. I just want to make a point here. So it says the Felatas, the Pulis, or the Poles have not been long known except by some tribes who inhabit Senegambia and who sometimes penetrated the Sudan. Their skin is extremely dark, inclining sometimes to a reddish and sometimes to a copper color, but being never really black. They have rather long hair, smooth and silky, smooth, long hair, long, flowing, smooth, silky hair. Okay? This is Africans they're talking about. Their nose is not flattened. They don't have a flattened nose. The shape of their face is oval. Their stature tall and slight. The extremities of the limbs delicate and small. Their step light and commanding. We class among the Felon family the people dwelling in the western part of Africa, such as the inhabitants of Negritia and Bambara. All right? The capital of Negritia, Sego or Segu, is a tolerably large town situated on the Niger. All right, we're talking about West Africans here. Africans with what? Dark, reddish, copper color with long, flowing, long hair, long, smooth, and silky hair. So that's the hijack when you're hearing American Indians being described with long hair. This is in another part of the book, even though we're talking about California mainly. I just wanted to point this out since it was in this book as well. And it's talking about the Chippewa, the Ojibwe Chippewa Indians on the heights of Lake Pepin. All right. So it says a same traveler met with them, right? It says their stature was tall, but they had coarse features and a skin of a very, very dark reddish color. All right, what's the difference between that and what we just read with those Africans, right? Half their face was covered by a thick layer of vermilion extending as far as their hair, which was plaited over the crown. Plaited hair, right? Chippewa Indians with very dark reddish color and plaited over the crown. What does plaited hair mean to you? Now, when I put plaited hair, all right, not in Dutch to hijack, but when I put plaited hair, right, and I searched, this is what I get, right? What is plaited hair? What is plaited hair? Again, what is plaited hair? You're just talking about braids and cornrows. What is plaited hair? Right? Plaited hair. So who would have more? Who would mostly have plaited hair? Who would really have mostly plaited hair? Plaited hair. Let me go back. It says here the Chippewa Indians, Ojibwe Chippewa Indians, had a skin of a very dark reddish color, very dark. Half their face was covered by a thick layer of vermilion extending as far as their hair, which was plaited over their crown, a crown, braids in the crown, a king, a Khan of dark reddish color, were braided over his crown, over the crown. They wore long leather gaiters tied at the sides by innumerable thongs, and over a sort of tattered blouse was thrown a large woolen blanket, which completely covered them. One individual, armed with a long steel blade shaped like a dagger, had stuck his pipe in his hair. You can play the fool and pretend you don't understand who they're talking about here, and say, well, no, anybody can braid their hair, and they mean, they just mean somebody with a tan, Kurimeo. No, that's not what they mean. A little further in the book, for page 484, it says, within sight of the Rio Colorado, M. Mohisen encountered some Indians belonging to the three tribes of the Chime Webs, Kuchanas, and Pautas, or the Paiuetes, right? Who bear a resemblance to each other. The first two, I've never heard of those names, all right? Who bear a resemblance to each other, their family. Their complexion was dark in color, all right? Dark in color. Their faces stripped with bistre, and their black hair hung down their backs in locks, which were confined with wet clay, all right? We got a lot of pictures of the Pauiete, the Pautas, as they called here, the Maricopas, the Pima Indians with locks, dreadlocks, as you call them, but they're just locks, nothing to dread. So they had long locks, again, locks. And again, let's not play the fools here. When I put hair locks, this is what I get. And I search. This is what I get. Hair locks. Hair locks. So they got a very dark complexion. They're probably darker than this individual right here. Right? As the way they're described in the pictures that we got colorized. So they got locks, right? Locks, long locks coming down. And they're very dark color, right? Who they talking about when talking about locks and a very dark color? Let's go back. So the Chime Webs, the Kuchanas, and the Paiutas, their complexion were dark in color, right? And their black hair hung down their backs in locks, which were confined with wet clay. They were of fine stature and perfectly naked but for a waistband. They bounded forward like deer to meet the travelers, and their expression of countenance was frank, kind, and merry. Their women, on the contrary, were small, thick-set, and clumsy, but their large black eyes and pleasant manners gave them a certain charm. Oh, yeah? So again, returning to our topic, right? California tribes. It says here in connection, page 493, in connection with the aboriginal inhabitants of California, we must direct the reader's attention to the fact that the Californians have a skin of such a deep reddish brown, that it seems black. So-called black. It seems black. It always seems black. That's why they try to call you black, but it's just a crayon color. No one is black. It just seems black. It's the deep reddish brown copper colored tribes of America. And again, I just want to direct the viewers' attention, your attention right now. You're listening and watching. I just want to direct your attention and to the fact, right? To the fact, primary sources, scholarly sources, that the Californians have a skin of such a deep reddish brown that it seems black. This color is certainly exceptional among the primitive inhabitants of America. All right? Deep reddish brown. So again, I want to remind everybody, as it says here in this book, in another page, right? We're on page, it says here the black race, page 494, right after that. It says the peoples belonging to the black race, so-called black, present great variations too. Some have the type altogether peculiar to the race we have just characterized, while others show a tendency to approach the yellow and the white races. The inhabitants of Guinea and Congo are quite black, but the Caffres are only excessively brown and resemble Abyssinians. The Hottentots, right? The Hottentots are the Khoisan people, the Khoisan people, Khoi. This is a derogative term, they're saying. And the Bushmen are yellowish. The Bushmen and Hottentot, right? They're what? Yellowish, like the Chinese, though at the same time possessing the features and physiognomy of the Negro. All right, so that's the hijack. We just read all those descriptions of the Indians in California, and all of them are darker than these two African peoples, the Hottentots and the Bushmen. As striking varieties are therefore observable in the black race as in the white. All right, different stuff, and a rigorous classification of it is consequently very difficult to establish. Different types of so-called blacks, even in Africa. Again, the Hottentots, whom the Dutch colonists call Bushmen or Bushmen, inhabit the southern extremity of the continent. Their skin is of a dark yellowish hue, and it is only in consequence, they're talking about these Africans, right? And it's only a consequence of their features and conformation, which are those of Negroes, that the Hottentots are placed in the black race. For if their color is considered, they should be ranked in the yellow one. They should be actually the yellow race. Are they really from Africa? Just because they have features that you assume to be African only. So that's the hijack. Hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. And these are one of the oldest African peoples on Africa, the Khoisan people, yellowish. They should be ranked in the yellow race as the yellow man. I didn't say it. Just real quick, shout out to Suits Makal, Sheikh Sean Atim. Hey, sorry if I'm killing it, brother. He's around the Salini Koshidi Rumsen tribes of America, and his Iberian heritage as well. He got his genealogy done. He knows who he is. He sent me a couple of more correlation for today's video, and we don't have the exact sources. He just sent me this on the direct message, but these are from primary sources. And these are his people. It says here the Enslen or Estetes of New California, ugly blackish Negroes. Ugly blackish Negroes. C. Vanegas and Langsdorff, okay? This is how they're being described. We already got Langsdorff, the primary source. We have that. We got that already. So yeah, we can verify this. And that's his people. Whatever you think of him today and what his appearance is today, these are his people. They're being described as ugly blackish Negroes in these primary sources. And right here is regarding about the Indians of the Runsienis or Essalinis is another source, which are the principal tribes in this district, or from those of the Ismuracanes or Aspanlaques. They are of medium height, dark in color, and seem to be the slowest witted, as they are the ugliest and dirtiest of all the natives of America. You see how they talk bad about these people in California? All right, but again, dark in color. It says here, all the Monterey Indians I have seen, and there are still over 100 of them left in our vicinity, are of a light or a deep burnt sienna color. They're either light, there's some that are light, and there's some that are what? A deep burnt sienna color in Monterey. Okay? Deep burnt sienna color. Now, I just want to show you what burnt sienna looks like, okay? Burnt sienna, Brinton's stock collections. This is burnt sienna. All right, take a good look. Burnt sienna. Another source here says they are generally about 5 feet high, stout and squabbly in body, with large sploy feet, and generally of a curious, obscure mahogany color. Mahogany, all right, what's the color of mahogany, right? Sometimes they are blackish brown. So they're usually mahogany, but sometimes they're blackish brown, sometimes nearly jet black, sometimes nearly jet black, okay? Sometimes quite light yellow, like the koi koi, you mean, from Africa, like the Hottentots, right? Like the Kafris. So what's the difference? That's your own hijacks and prejudices. The head is very large and bulging, covered with a thick growth of long, rough, stiff black hair, almost as hard as that of the horse, and looking more like a mop than the tachin over a human cranium. The face usually is heavy, melancholy, and stupid, with the nose broad, rounded, and projecting curiously from the face. The cheekbones also project considerably. The mouth is wide, with thick lips, all right, thick lips, broad nose, right? Deep sienna burnt color, right? Mahogany. The lower one sticking out in a peaked up form in the center. The teeth full, regular, and as white as ivory. Very little beard, and mostly on the upper lip. Right, so that's another source here. Okay, you guys see the trend here, what's going on in California. We appreciate the brother for sending us the information. Much love and respect to you, brother. And keep repping, man. Keep doing your thing, man. Blessings. And this is just a quick reminder, all right? This is from part 2 of my series from Indigenous American to African American. One of my older videos. It says here, race relations in Virginia and miscegenation in the South. 1776 1860 by James Hugo Johnston. What does it say in his book? It says here, in all the southern states, there are found to be records of cases sent to the courts of appeal in which the litigants attempt to show that they are descendants of Indians and not of Negroes, and hence that they do not fall subject to the slave code. These cases add interest to the study of pedigree, but they must be considered as additional evidence of the extensive mixture of racial blood in the slave states. To the visitor in the South, the physical characteristics of many Negro slaves bore witness to their Indian origin. Again, to the visitor in the South, the physical characteristics of many Negro slaves bore witness to their Indian origin. Period. Much love and respect. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed these last 3 parts. Do you remember who you are? Hope you guys are doing your genealogy. Hope you guys are searching for your tribe. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawa.